Chapter 11 Nickname. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tsukimi Space, having been stabbed for an unknown amount of time, Uchiha Jin's body nerves no longer responded to the pain. He watched numbly as the Uchiha attachis in front of him slashed at him one after another. It's like chopping meat. Unable to break free, Uchiha Jin even began to take pleasure in his misery, teasing the Uchiha attachis. Did you not eat? Can you try harder? Don't just cut the front. If it doesn't work, turn it over and cut it more evenly from front to back. Don't favor one thing over another. The Uchiha attachis who were working hard listened to Uchiha Jin's chatter. The originally set rhythm seemed to be wound up, and each one started twice as fast, double speed x2. Hey, don't poke it in the juju, I'm still innocent, I'm 24 years old and a student. Uchiha Jin, who had been stabbed unconscious, had already started talking nonsense. I don't know how long it took, but the Uchiha Itachi's movement stopped at the same time. Uchiha Jin, who closed his eyes and enjoyed Tsukimi's sharp swordsmanship, felt his hands being released. After falling, he knelt on one knee on the ground and stretched himself out with difficulty. Eyelids, looking at the white crescent moon above his head, Uchiha Jin was immediately moved to tears. It was not easy. MD, I finally got over it. Uchiha Jin said bitterly. What's wrong with you? Senju Itama, who was tied to the pillar and recovered, looked at Uchiha Jin kneeling on the ground with a strange expression. After tying him up just now, this guy took 2 steps and suddenly knelt on the ground, just to see if he was causing trouble again. I didn't expect that the next second I would burst into tears and yell about getting through it. He was really a strange guy. It's nothing, I just happened to think of something sad. Uchiha Jin, who knew Tsukimi's characteristics, stood up without any delay and turned around wiping tears. Why are you sad? It's me who should be sad, right? Senju Itama, who was complaining, looked at Uchiha Jin who turned around and said in surprise. Why are you so open with your Sharingan? Do you want to hypnotize me and torture me? You are an inherently evil Uchiha, but... Uchiha Jin, who was stunned by these words, realized that his eyesight had become better and he could see things clearly in the dark night. The chakra in the body is not blocked as before, and slowly flows to the eyes. This feeling is as comfortable as taking a bite of ice cream in the summer. But what? The happy Uchiha Jin didn't care about Senju Itama's rude words. Are you using a single Magatama to torture me with a hammer, and using illusions to hypnotize me? A violent hammer hit the head of Senju Itama who looked disdainful, and smashed out a big bag. Look at my physical hypnosis. The underestimated Uchiha Jin didn't want to take revenge overnight. Ha! Senju Itama screamed in pain after being beaten. After dealing with Senju Itama, Uchiha Jin looked around and found that everything was as usual. He checked the pillars and found no traces of people. Puzzled, he had to go back to the tent, took out a small mirror and looked at his eyes. Sure enough, he had really opened the Sharingan, although it was only a single Magatama. I tried to force Tsukimi to only activate the single Magatama. The original owner's talent is a bit ridiculous. He had been tortured for so long, and finally only opened the single Magatama. Uchiha Jin felt deeply worthless for himself, but he had not yet thought about the person who had eaten the single Magatama in Tsukimi's anger. The backyard refreshes a random skill, illusion Tsukimi, every day, and obtains Tsukimi fragment *1. The voice of the system, which he had not seen for a day, sounded in his mind. It turned out to be this skill, a seemingly useless rule skill that Uchiha Jin got last time when he opened the purple ball. It turned out that the system defaulted that the open space he fenced behind the tent belonged to his backyard, so it refreshed a Tsukimi for him and recalled the description of this skill. Random skill refreshed daily in the backyard. A skill is randomly refreshed every day in the backyard of the host's home. The skill is released by NPC. The host cannot control it, but the skill cannot kill the host. After the skill ends, there is a certain chance that skills or fragments will drop. Collect the fragments. You can learn this skill. You can't kill me, but you can torture me. Uchiha Jin cursed in his heart, but it seemed that he would not be harmed after this skill ended. Thinking back to Hitaki Gogo and how long he lay there after eating at Tsukimi, this wave could be regarded as a blessing in disguise. TSK, 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 am I considered the European emperor? I actually got a kaleidoscope skill in my first refresh. Then he tried to click on Tsukimi fragment / div, Tsukimi fragments, 1/40th, collect 40 pieces to synthesize the illusion Tsukimi, and the skill Mangekyo Sharingan can be learned. 40 pieces. TMD, isn't it too confusing? Seeing the bright, 1/40th, behind the fragments, Uchiha Jin felt very tired. I still have to eat 39 monthly meals. I don't have money anymore. Pay me back. This means that he has to meet Uchiha Itachi at least 39 times to collect this skill fragment. Thinking of this, the exhausted Uchiha Jin fell asleep. The next day it was just dawn, and Dairo Uchiha, who was responsible for keeping watch, stayed in a hidden place not far from the camp for half the night. Yawning, he was walking towards the camp. At this moment, Ching Yao Jin came out halfway. Looking at the person coming, Uchiha Dalong had a puzzled expression on his honest face. Uchiha Jin, what's the matter? The vigil is over, there's no need to change shifts anymore. The visitor was none other than Uchiha Jin, who had not slept well all night. He had been tortured by Tsukimi for 72 hours. As soon as he closed his eyes at night, a group of dozens of people attacked him, and many stabbed his lower body with knives. Although the system repaired his physical injuries, the mental trauma was not so easy to heal. Jin Uchiha, who had narrowed his eyes for a while, had the same panda eyes as Gaara and was guarding Uchiha Dairo's path early in the morning. For no other reason, he just wanted to open the treasure chest today. Brother Dalong, I heard Captain Feng Hua say that your fire escape training is superb. You can easily master B-level fire escape. You have even started to study A-level escape skills. I admire you very much. The usual routine is to start with a wave of praise, and Uchiha Ryoichi and Uchiha Fuikaku obviously did not inform Uchiha Dairo about the challenges around him. When he heard Uchiha Jin's words of admiration, Uchiha Dairo's first reaction was to touch his head in embarrassment, and then said honestly. No, I just spent everyone's rest time practicing fire escape. It's not worth mentioning. My little brother, I was taught how to escape from the fire by the clan leader. Meeting Brother Dalong is like meeting running water on a high mountain. I was delayed because of the task before. Fortunately, now that the task has been completed, I have finally let go of my obsession. Now I only have the last one wish is to compete with the genius ninja in the family, Xiaohua Dailang. If nothing else, I just want to admire Brother Dailang's amazing ninjutsu. Yuhua Dailang is the nickname of Uchiha Dailang in the clan. By the way, Uchiha Ryoichi is called Sword Ryoichi and Uchiha Feiha is called Two Sword Feiha. But, the gathering is about to begin, so why don't we wait until we have a rest in the evening to communicate with you? Although Uchiha Dairo was blown away by Uchiha Jin, he did not take it as he always had the most important task. He had to rush today and could not waste his energy and chakra just for the sake of competition. It's okay, we'll do it. A certain Uchiha rolled his eyes and was about to use the same words to deceive Uchiha Feiha, when a voice suddenly sounded from behind Uchiha Jin. What are you writing about? We are about to leave. At some point, Uchiha Seal Fire appeared behind the two of them like a ghost, frowning and speaking to them. Uchiha Jin and the other two suddenly broke into a cold sweat. They didn't realize when Uchiha Fenghua appeared next to him, so they could only nod in agreement. On the way back, Uchiha Jin followed them, thinking it was a pity. It seems that we can only wait until night to find Uchiha Dairo, but Uchiha's fire-sealing stealth skill is really powerful. He appeared behind us without feeling any of his chakra fluctuations. Only then did he remember that Uchiha Fire Seal also had a title, and this title was not only spread among the clan, but also resounded throughout the Warring States period, God's Hidden Fire Sealing. A man who has mastered the art of stealth to the extreme. Once during an assassination mission, he sneaked into a middle-class family, bypassed the guards of hundreds of people and assassinated the target until he was discovered the next day. Chapter 12 Important content not loaded. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The three returned to the camp. Uchiha Ryoichi and Uchiha Tsuru had cleaned up the traces and were waiting to set off. Seeing Uchiha Jin and Uchiha Dairo, the two looked at each other with strange expressions. Taking advantage of the gap when Uchiha Jin went to take Senju Itama, they approached Uchiha Dairo. "Is that guy Uchiha Jin looking for you to spar?" Uchiha Ryoichi spoke first, and Uchiha Dairo, who was stunned by the question, answered doubtfully. "Yeah, how do you know? Are you talking about what the patriarch taught him?" Uchiha Tsuru also jumped in and said. Seeing Uchiha Dairo's surprised expression, the two of them were convinced that he had been teased by Uchiha Jin using the same trick. "That guy was just making fun of us, saying that he would give up after a few moves. Not only that, he just threw the knife on the ground when he was sparring with me. It's just making fun of us anyway." Uchiha Dairo, who was confused by the two people's words, turned around after a moment. "You mean that when Uchiha Jin asked us for advice, he was actually playing tricks on us?" "That's right." Uchiha Ryoichi and Uchiha Tsuru reached a consensus and replied in unison. After hearing this, Uchiha Dairo's honest face turned green and red. "Damn it, then I became a little curious again. What does he want by doing this?" When asked, the three of them were silent. "Maybe it's free time." Uchiha Funghua, who was eating melon on the side, said leisurely after hearing this. "After all, that boy may only have his body left." Uchiha Ryoichi and the others had question marks on their heads. Just when they were about to ask again, Uchiha Jin came over carrying the tied-up Senju Itama, and the three of them stopped talking in time. Uchiha Ryoichi and Uchiha Crane both looked at the sky, as if something in the sky was attracting him. Uchiha Crane lowered his head and counted the moving ants on the ground with his toes. Only Uchiha Dairo looked at it with an annoyed look. Looking at him. "Brother Delang, I'm still a little confused about the question just now." "Humph, carrot." Uchiha Dairo walked away with an expression of shame. Oh, Uchiha Jin looked confused. "Set off." Uchiha Funghua ignored the farce and directly ordered to leave. The territory that Uchiha and Senju have been fighting for is in the Land of Fire in later generations. The Senju clan's territory is in the east, close to the sea, adjacent to their distant relative, the country of Uzumaki. The Uchiha clan's territory is to the west. Uchiha Jin and his party are located to the east of the country of fire, and are currently fleeing along the coastline in the southwest direction. The sun was shining brightly on a June day, and because it was close to the coastline, the group of people on the road could feel a hint of coolness in the hot air. According to the Uchiha Fire Seal map, it is inferred that they should be about to escape from the territory of the Senju clan. As long as they run out smoothly, they can throw away the pursuers behind and enter the coast of the Kingdom of Whirlpool. By then, they will be basically safe. Uchiha Jin, who was at the back of the team, was chatting with Senju Itama who was being carried. "Itama kid, I heard that you have a good relationship with the Uzumaki clan in the country of Uzumaki." "Of course, we are cousins. The leader of the Uzumaki clan often comes to our Senju clan as a guest. The last time he came, he even promised to arrange a marriage with our family." Senju Itama knew that he could neither escape nor commit suicide, so he simply gave up. "Anyway, when you get to the Uchiha clan, you will die without life, but now you can live one day at a time." And after getting along with him for a few days, he also learned that he was alive until now because of the Uchiha Jin in front of him. He was the one who saved him when several others wanted to kill him. Although he always felt that Uchiha Jin's purpose was impure, the other party did not usually abuse him. When they quarreled, Uchiha Jin would punish him with an iron fist, but would give him dried meat afterwards, for fear that the boy would starve to death. He will also tell him some strange jokes, which although he doesn't understand, can still make him laugh. You can live longer by staying in a happy mood. During the few days on the road, I carried him without any impatience. I was afraid that someone would accidentally slap this kid to death. The young Senju Itama suddenly discovered that the image of the other person overlapped with that of his most beloved eldest brother and second brother. "It's so pitiful that you have fallen into the grave of love at such a young age." Uchiha Jin sighed after hearing this. "Do you also want to marry a woman from the Uzumaki clan? I heard that their clan lives on the foggy island all year round." The women are all fair-skinned beauties with flaming red hair. TSK TSK TSK, don't say that. How tempting. Uchiha Jin smiled teasingly at the blushing Senju Atama. Senju Atama, who was shocked by such an adult topic, turned his head to the side with a red face, and said with a burning ear. I don't want women from the Uzumaki family, those guys are all violent. Oh, you're still shy. Do you have someone you secretly like? Hurry up and recruit him. Seeing Senju Atama's appearance, the bored Uchiha Jin became more playful. No. I don't secretly like Sister Taohua. In desperation, Senju Atama actually spit out an unfamiliar name from his mouth for the first time. Haha, you are really a little kid. After being exposed by himself, Senju Atama wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in, but he was tricked by the other party so easily. You evil Uchiha, Senju Atama barked helplessly, I will never pay attention to you again. After saying that, he closed his eyes and stopped talking. You really can't help but tease me. Uchiha Jin smiled and shook his head, thinking about how to deal with Senju Atama's hot potato after completing the mission. Although he initially relied on jokes and excuses such as the clan leader's hints, once he returned to the Uchiha clan and the clan leader came out to confront him, the matter was revealed, this kid might really be skinned and dismembered by the angry Uchiha Taijima, and he would eventually die without a complete body. The mission is about rescuing Senju Atama from Uchiha Fenghua and others. I should have saved this brat now. Why hasn't the mission been completed yet? That the first mission introduction was very brief, and Uchiha Jin couldn't see any clues. Now he was like being roasted on both sides of the fire. On the one hand, he was afraid that he would still not be able to complete the task after returning to the tribe and he would die. On the other hand, he was afraid that if he secretly let the kid go, he would most likely not die if he went back and be held accountable by the tribe leader, but the days that followed would definitely be worse than death. Hey, why are you so unlucky to end up with such a precious system from ancient times, that the novice gift packages sent by other people's systems are either powerful ninjutsu or NB artifacts? If not, they are just attribute points. Add one and take off immediately. As for myself, I was given 4 days to open the treasure chest. I finally saved up 1 win and 1 loss to prepare for a losing streak and be sanctioned by the system to start over again. He almost scared himself to death if he wasn't given a skill to use. In Tsukuyomi, he was poked dozens of times for 72 hours. In the end, he was only given fragments and told that he would have to be poked another 39 times. After so many days, there is no improvement in strength. Instead, the system has a sword of Damocles hanging on his head. Is there any time traveler who is worse than him? The system is great. When will my mission be completed? I have already rescued Senju Atama. In desperation, Uchiha Jin once again tried calling the system in his mind. It has been detected that the host's task completion rate is 60%. We still need to protect the task target Senju Banjian until we return to the Senju clan and the task can be completed. The system that never responded actually answered his question for the first time. Uchiha Jin, who was immediately angered by the system and vomited the fragrance in his mind like crazy. Uchiha Jin calmed down and asked. The mission content at that time didn't say that we were going to protect Senju Atama to Senju's house. At that time, the system was still loading, 80% of the content was not loaded, and the task data was missing. Now the task release module has been loaded. The mission is as follows. Save Senju Atama from the hands of Uchiha Fenghua and others, protect it from returning to the Senju clan, obtain points *10, random magic ball *1, Senju Atama dies, and the mission fails. The sentence that you didn't express your feelings is the most important. Insufficient traffic, please increase the host strength. The system loading speed is linked to the host strength. Another cold prompt came from the system. Chapter 13 Uzumaki Mito has a dream of being a heroine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The activation speed of the system is actually linked to his own strength, which gives Uchiha Jin the motivation to move forward. it seems that the reason why the system can fully load Senju Itama's mission is all due to the single Magatama Sharingan that was accidentally activated in Tsukuyomi last night. The opening of the Sharingan allowed his strength to evolve from a cannon fodder genin to an ordinary genin. There is still a little gap between him and the powerful 12 Xiaoqiang, but he should be 50 to 50 equal to Hinata. Giggle. Uchiha Jin, who was covering his face with one hand, let out a strange laugh, causing Senju Banma, who was pretending to be dead behind him, to secretly open one eye. What's wrong with you again? Seeing Uchiha Jin transforming into the four heroes laughing wildly, Senju Itama couldn't hold it back and couldn't help but vomit, only to receive a violent shudder from the other party. Senju Itama, who had a big bruise on his head, curled his lips a little aggrievedly and tried not to cry. After adjusting his mentality, Uchiha Jin looked at the kid and found that he was not that annoying. He smiled and said something to Senju Itama that made his spine shiver. Kid, maybe you can be reunited with your family soon. Don't even think about it. Senju Itama, who was obviously misunderstood, started barking incompetently again. Since the noise this guy made might attract enemies, Uchiha Jin took out something and stuffed his mouth without hesitation. Feeling the salty smell of the object in his mouth, Senju Itama smelled it and fainted on the spot. The humidity at the beach is so heavy that my feet will be sweating all day long. Uchiha Jin took back his hand with satisfaction, looked at the smelly socks that had not been washed for several days and put them into Senju Itama's mouth, and analyzed them seriously. We are about to enter the territory of the Uzumaki clan ahead. Concentrate your chakra and don't let them sense you. The leader, Uchiha Fenghua, suddenly reminded him. In addition to being good at sealing techniques, the Uzumaki clan also has first-class perception. We are on a mission now, so don't provoke the Uzumaki clan by alerting others. Is there a possibility that we have been discovered? Uchiha Jin, who was at the back of the team, muttered. It was detected that the host was encountering a battle, and the heart steel treasure box began to accumulate. A buzzer sounded in his head, and enemies had appeared around him. More than 10 kilometers away, a red-haired figure opened his eyes, and his blood-red pupils showed a hint of chill. There are 5 ninjas in front of us. 5 of them have extremely cold chakra. They may be from the Uchiha clan. There is also one who is full of vitality. The man with red hair and red eyes said to several men with the same red hair next to him. Can you be sure about the one that's full of life? A sturdy red-haired muscular man asked. My Kagura mind never misses. The red-eyed man replied. That's them, let's go. The red-haired muscular man waved his hand, and the others chased in the direction of Uchiha Jin and others like Li Xian's arrows. Except for Uchiha Jin, Uchiha Fenghua and others who were still on their way did not notice the enemy approaching. Upon hearing the prompt, Uchiha Jin deliberately slowed down and gradually hung far behind the team. The Uchiha people in the team were already accustomed to Uchiha Jin's behavior of leaving the team, so they didn't pay attention. Anyway, he would catch up after a while. The Uchiha group was walking through the forest. Uchiha Fenghua, who was taking the lead, suddenly felt that the chakra in his body was somewhat blocked. Before he could think about it, a sense of crisis arose spontaneously. Years of assassination experience made him stop immediately. There's an ambush. Uchiha Seiyuo opened the 3 Magatama Sharingan and looked around vigilantly. Uchiha Ryoichi and 3 others behind him did not dare to be careless and opened their respective Sharingan as soon as possible. At this moment, several red-haired men emerged from the woods, led by the red-haired muscular man just now. The other party looked at Uchiha Fenghua and others, and looked a little surprised when he saw that there were only 4 of them. As expected of the Uchiha clan, they can actually detect the sealing formation we set up. The red-haired muscular man crossed his arms and said seriously. Uchiha Fenghua did not feel honored to be praised. After looking at the red-haired muscular man, he said. We, the Uchiha clan, have never had any conflict with the Uzumaki clan. Why are you plotting against us for no reason? There should be 6 of you. Where are the other 2? The red-haired muscular man didn't speak. A man with red hair and red eyes next to him asked. Hearing this, Uchiha Fenghua's heart thumped, and he secretly thought. It seems that the other party is coming for the brat from the Thousand Hands clan. Then he glanced behind him vaguely, and found that Uchiha Jin hadn't caught up yet. He was secretly anxious. This kid must not come here. I don't understand what you are talking about. We are just a 4-person team on a mission, and we are on the way. Uchiha Funghua said, but a hand behind his back was giving a signal to the 3 people behind him. Ordinary team. Ordinary team needs the famous, Shinin Fire Ceiling, to lead the team. What exactly is the mission? That the red-haired muscular man opposite pointed out Uchiha Funghua's identity and asked directly. Do it. Seeing that their identities had been exposed, several people who had just conveyed the message through the code suddenly burst into flames at the same time. They all opened their scarlet Sharingan eyes to kill the members of the Uzumaki clan, and the battle was imminent. Behind, Uchiha Jin, who had been lagging behind for a long time, also encountered his enemy. Looking at the red-haired figure suddenly emerging from the woods opposite, the sound in Uchiha Jin's mind sounded again. It was detected that the host was encountering a battle, and the heart steel treasure box began to accumulate. Are you really not going to give me a chance to suffer a losing streak? Mito Uzumaki, the youngest daughter of Uzumaki Ashina, the leader of the Uzumaki clan, has shown great talent for sealing since she was a child. She is regarded as the apple of the eye by the middle-aged daughter Uzumaki Ashina, and she has been doted on in every possible way since she was a child. However, the proud Uzumaki Mito was extremely angry when he learned that his father had promised him to the Senju clan far away. In a fit of anger, he took his father's treasures and sneaked onto a cargo ship sailing out of the kingdom of Whirlpool to start his journey of escaping from marriage. From today on, I will be a female vagabond who is a heroic and righteous woman. That on the boat, I heard a storyteller from the Iron Country tell several stories about the drifter and the heroic heroes. The innocent and passionate 10-year-old girl began her journey as a heroine. First, he used physical skills to beat down a group of thugs who were common people at the dock, which attracted continuous applause from the onlookers, which was very useful to Uzumaki Mito, who had a heroine dream. Then he used sealing techniques to deal with a few wandering ninjas who relied on ninjutsu to bully women from good families, sealed their chakras, and threw them all into the mountains to mine and reform. After several operations, she won a lot of reputation, and the reputation of the red-haired heroine spread like wildfire. Another peaceful day, that the bun-faced girl with a bun in her hair ate the candy given to her by the old lady on the roadside, and patrolled the town she had protected with a satisfied look on her face. It is said to be a small town, but in fact it is just a small fishing village near the coastline. The originally chaotic place has been rectified by the girl and has become peaceful and stable. I remember the storyteller said that what a knight wants to pursue is to wander around the world and be at home all over the world. Touching his little head, Uzumaki Mito decided to bid farewell to his first village and walk towards a higher and further world. There are still many people in need of help waiting for me to save. Shaking his fair and tender little fists, Uzumaki Mito encouraged himself. After thinking about it, Uzumaki Mito said goodbye to his folks in the small fishing village. Although the folks were reluctant to say goodbye, they still waved goodbye to the girl and prepared a large bag of snacks and dry food for the girl before leaving. Heading towards the jungle deep on the coastline, Uzumaki Mito, who was showing off all the way, was eating and walking. Suddenly she saw a man with curly black hair carrying a child on his back. She found that the man not only tied up the child behind him, but also gave the child a violent shudder. What was even more outrageous was that he took out a smelly sock and stuffed it into the child's mouth. This must be the legendary human trafficker, but aren't the human traffickers my brother mentioned are the kind of black laborers in the north? The confused Uzumaki Mito followed secretly. Uzumaki Mito, who was following him all the way, saw that the black curly-haired man's pace slowed down, so he sneaked over, preparing to give the other party a gorgeous opening that would surprise the evil trafficker. So the next scene is a red-haired girl with a round head carrying a big baggage, her cheeks bulging. He held a half-eaten dried salted fish in his left hand, and held half a sesame seed cake in his right hand. His mouth was full of food, and his words could not be heard clearly. Cool dirty special silver house paper, hot pot blue high. Damn human trafficker, put down that boy. Carrot. Chapter 14. What are you going to do, beast? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding! It is detected that the host encounters a plot character, and the system task is being issued. The mission begins: defeat Uzumaki Mito, who has the dream of being a heroine, and let him know that the world is dangerous and people's hearts are unpredictable. Reward points *10, random magic ball *1. The defeat of the host means the mission has failed. The charming girl in front of her has a fair, round face, big watery eyes, a small cherry-like mouth, and her fiery red hair is tied into two small balls, making her look very cute and playful. Uchiha Jin was in a daze after seeing her, revealing the sharp little tiger teeth like a small female animal, and his big eyes were full of dissatisfaction, like a kitten with its teeth and claws. Uzumaki Mito, who felt underestimated, was about to say harsh words, but the sesame seed cake he had just stuffed into his mouth had not yet been completely swallowed. As the girl opened her small mouth, the air poured in, squeezing the unchewed food into the girl's tiny esophagus, immediately making her breathless. The pair of small hands didn't care about the food in their hands, they clenched into small fists and banged on their own airport, trying to make the food swallow. Seeing the girl in front of him who wanted to say something but immediately beat her chest, Uchiha Jin reluctantly took out his own water bottle from his backpack, unscrewed it and handed it over. The girl, who almost rolled her eyes because she was choked, saw a life-saving straw when she saw the kettle. She took it and started doing it, followed by a gurgling sound. The girl looked at the kettle in her hand as if she had survived a disaster, and was about to say thank you to the kind person who brought the water. He looked up and saw the smiling Uchiha Jin next to him. He screamed and jumped a few meters away, looking at him with a wary face. Is this how you treat your savior? Uchiha Jin narrowed his eyes and said teasingly. I'm very grateful to you, but I'll just let you go, Mr. Kind-hearted trafficker. The girl's delicate brows knitted together. She thought for a moment and said. Are you talking about this brat? Uchiha Jin slipped Senju Itama, who was still unconscious behind him, to the front. It's not impossible to let him go, but you have to defeat me first. In order to complete his mission, Uchiha Jin is ready to attack the cute little loli. Hearing this, Uzumaki Mito showed an expression just as I expected. I saw her first put down the mountain-like baggage she was carrying behind her, and then began to do warm-up exercises. She stretched her little arms and legs, which were as slender as jade lotus roots, put on a cute hand gesture, and said seriously. Please enlighten me. Uchiha Jin kicked away Senju Itama, who was in the way. The kid rolled away like a gourd. He was still in a coma and let out a strange cry of awe when he was kicked. Come here on horseback. Uchiha Jin raised his fingers provocatively. I don't even need to use a weapon to deal with a brat like you. As he spoke, he thrust aside the katana at his waist. Regarding Uchiha Jin's contemptuous behavior, an angry flame rose up behind Uzumaki Mito. She kicked her legs hard and rushed over like a cannonball. Uchiha Jin's eyelids flickered at such a fast speed. Jump! Punch me! The girl threw an angry punch vertically at Uchiha Jin, who was still on the spot. He had no time to dodge and crossed his arms, preparing to bear the blow. Unexpectedly, the impact from his arms made his hands numb, and he leaned back, doing a backflip in the air and barely landing, shaking his forearms that were already shaking slightly. Uchiha Jin was horrified. As expected of the future Ninetales Jinchuriki, he has such strength at such a young age. Uzumaki Mito looked at her delicate little fist in surprise. The trafficker opposite could actually resist her punch. You must know that her talent in physical arts has been amazing since she was a child, and she awakened her rare talent for strange strength when she was 5 years old. No ordinary chunin could withstand her full blow, but the other party actually only took a few steps back. Thinking of this, the girl put away her contempt, and a competitive fire ignited in her eyes. Come again. Uzumaki Mito mobilized the chakra in his body and concentrated it on his hands. In an instant, a burst of light cyan light appeared on the girl's white and tender palms. Looking at those small fists, Uchiha Jin's scalp went numb for a while before he could recover. Isn't this Tsunade's strange power? After imagining the consequences of being punched in the chest by this pair of small fists, Uchiha Jin's heart went cold. He originally wanted to bully the smaller ones, but he didn't expect that this time he would hit the iron plate. seeing that the girl had raised her fist, Uchiha Jin immediately retreated and opened his newly awakened Sharingan. The single Magatama Sharingan can only provide insight. With the blessing of the single Magatama, Uchiha Jin can barely see the girl's movements clearly, and can barely dodge the taijutsu moves. The slightly rotating Magatama allowed him to slowly adapt to the girl's speed. The moment he raised his hand, he seemed to be able to see her next move. With eyes like these that look like cheating, no wonder I will be coveted by others in the future. Sighing at the power of the Sharingan, Uchiha Jin dodged the girl's punch with ease. Looking at Uji who passed by her face, Uchiha Jin began to think about how to fight back. Uchiha Jin really couldn't use a sword against a child, not that he was a holy mother, he would not be merciful to real threats, but the tired and panting Wanzatu in front of him had no intention of killing him from the beginning to the end. We just have to outsmart him. Turning his wrist slightly, a thin transparent thread was thrown aside by Uchiha Jin with hidden force and inserted into the katana on the ground. Following the girl's random punches, her body deliberately began to move around the opponent in circles, and the girl who was being led by the nose didn't even notice. The bloodline of the Uzumaki clan gives her strong vitality. Like the Senju clan, she is very good at protracted battles. You're as slippery as a loach. You're such a coward. If you have the guts to fight me, what kind of man are you hiding from me? Mito Uzumaki, who had been missing, said angrily. Okay. Uchiha Jin, who had been walking in circles, suddenly stopped and nodded seriously not far from the girl. Take the move. Seeing the opportunity, the girl charged up her fists and took a sudden step. Uchiha Jin on the opposite side saw that the time was right and pulled hard with her wrist. A wave of vegetation rolled up around the girl, and transparent silk thread surrounded the girl in an instant. Stand up. The next moment, the girl who had no time to dodge was tightly entangled in the silk thread, and her petite body struggled hard. After a few times, she desperately found that the more she struggled, the tighter the silk thread became. I suggest you stop struggling. The harder you exert force on this thread, the tighter it will become. Your thin fabric will be easily cut. As soon as Uchiha Jin finished speaking, there was only a tearing sound, and the girl's thin clothes were cut in several places, and the cut areas exposed the girl's white and tender skin. The white jade-like skin was stretched out with red marks by silk threads, making Uzumaki Mito, who was still struggling, suddenly blush, and his whole body was steaming, transforming into a steam girl. Damn it, let me go. It was the first time that Uzumaki Mito suffered such humiliation, with tears in his eyes, and a charming look, without any of the arrogance of chasing after someone with a hammer just now. Then you admit defeat first. Uchiha Jin looked at Uzumaki Mito's female ninja no misfortune look and was not shaken at all. Of course, if the other party was 7 or 8 years older, he might not be able to hold it. You let me go if I admit defeat. The aggrieved Uzumaki Mito looked at the trafficker in front of her with some disbelief. According to her idea, the other party should also tie her up and then sell her to a place where she listens to music. I swear on the honor of the Uchiha ancestors. Uchiha Jin once again swore on his ancestors. Sneeze. He was sparring with the melon-headed boy about his hedgehog hair. After a few days, he felt a chill on his back. Madala, are you okay? The young man asked with concern. Seeing Uchiha's words, the girl compromised and said. I give up. Ding. The host defeated Uzumaki Mito. The mission is completed, the points are +10, and the blue orb *1 is obtained. Uchiha Jin almost shed tears of excitement. After traveling for so long, he finally completed a task, and then he observed his reward in his mind. Turning on the system again, Uchiha Jin found that his mind was no longer an empty and monotonous space, but instead had a chessboard-like arena. He also had the entity, and he followed the guidance onto the chessboard. He found that the heart steel treasure chest he obtained from his mission was placed on the left side. There was a row of numbers scrolling on the treasure chest. The host is successful, gains anima *1, and the heart steel treasure chest reward has been unlocked. Current accumulated anima, 14. With a late beep, Uchiha Jin saw the numbers above the heart steel treasure box on the chessboard stop scrolling. 1 to be opened. 1 plus 10 dash 10 plus 12 plus 1 equals 14. Due to the punishment of a wave of card bugs in the middle of Uchiha Silver, the number of layers of heart steel was only 14 in the end. Power works miracles. Uchiha Jin clicked on it and saw the heart steel treasure chest beating. Accompanied by the magical BGM, 2 colorful orbs with the heart steel logo fell out. With an anxious mood, Uchiha Jin opened one of them, and with a flash of light, a gold bar appeared in his hand. Gold brick *1, a universal currency that can be used for real consumption. Can you actually make a lot of money? Uchiha Jin weighed the heavy gold in his hand in surprise. The piece of gold in his hand was enough to cause a big dispute. Then he looked at the other magic ball. Isn't it also gold? But with this thought in mind, Uchiha Jin opened the remaining orbs. Vortex Clan Physique *1, after use, a trace amount of the Vortex Clan bloodline will be obtained, and the attributes will be slightly improved. The second magic ball actually revealed its bloodline. Uchiha Jin couldn't calm down when he saw the word Whirlpool. Several important characters in the play are orphans of the Whirlpool clan. The behind-the-scenes boss of the Akatsuki organization, Nagato, relied on the blood of the Uzumaki clan to force Madara's reincarnation eye to kill Toad Sage first, and then flatten Konoha with one move, thus establishing a proper mid-term combat power ceiling. Not to mention the prince, even if he doesn't rely on Kyubi, he is still a Chatanla player, and his physical recovery ability is top-notch. Property. Although the bloodline was attractive, the latter attribute also made him curious. Learning from the system flow routine in the memory of his previous life, Uchiha Jin tried to call up the attribute panel. As soon as he finished speaking, a light curtain rose up on the chessboard, and Uchiha Jin's head was prominently displayed. There actually is. Host, Uchiha Silver, Tolerance, 5. Body, 4. Wisdom, 9. Essence, 3. Charm, 1. Pupil, 5. Skills, Ordinary Taijutsu, High Fireball Technique, Uchiha Beginner's Sword Technique, Intermediate Shuriken Technique, Comprehensive Evaluation, a somewhat clever single Magatama who needs a beating but a Uchiha Genin. What is the type that deserves a beating? What does it mean that the charm is only 1? A certain Uchiha was so angry that his eyes almost turned white. Next, Uchiha Jin clicked to use the Uzumaki clan's physique, and a warm current suddenly spread from his heart to his whole body. The chakra that was originally blocked like dripping water turned into a rushing stream. The warm chakra made Uchiha Silver feel comfortable, and at the same time he felt that his whole body had endless strength. After feeling the rebirth of his body, Uchiha Jin suddenly remembered the small increase in attributes mentioned behind the reward, and looked up at his attribute panel again. Host, Uchiha Silver, Tolerance, 7. Body, 8. Wisdom, 9. Essence, 6. Charm, 1. Pupil, 5. Skills, Ordinary Taijutsu, High Fireball Technique, Uchiha Beginner's Sword Technique, Intermediate Shuriken Technique, Comprehensive Evaluation, a somewhat clever single Magatama who needs to be beaten but a Uchiha Chunin. The bloodline of the Uzumaki clan is mainly reflected in the ninja, body and spirit. Among them, the body and spirit have doubled in growth, which should correspond to the physique and chakra. The attribute research was almost done, and Uchiha Jin discovered a strange device on the right side of the chessboard, similar to the game console he played in the arcade in his previous life. He tried to click on the boot button. As the game console screen started, a big 10 came into view, and then the description of the game console popped up. Mall game machine, accumulate points to unlock the grand prize. There was no explanation other than that. After tinkering with no results, Uchiha Jin had to give up the game console and curiously asked the system. Why are so many things showing up this time? Because the host has completed one prerequisite task, the system load plus 10%, isn't this the whole scenario of the system? Uchiha Jin asked in disbelief as he looked at the now luxurious system space. The system is still loading and cannot answer. It seems that there are still many functions of his system that have not been unlocked. Uchiha Jin's confidence in his ability to survive the founding of Konoha has increased several times. Maybe I can survive Boruto. Uchiha Silver entered fantasy time. Hey, did you agree to let me go? You can't keep your word. Uzumaki Mito, who had just admitted defeat, saw that the other party was actually in a daze, and couldn't help shouting. The next moment he finished speaking, Uchiha Jin's eyes regained their sparkle. The long time that had just passed in the system was only a moment outside. Okay, I'll untie you now. Uchiha Jin, who had gained a lot, looked at the great hero in front of him and grinned to the sky. Hey, why are you laughing so disgustingly? Uzumaki Mito looked at Uchiha Jin with a silver smile on his face, and couldn't help but twist around. This kind of silk thread cannot be cut with ordinary sharp tools. It can only be put away when it finds the end. Uchiha Jin did not hesitate and started groping on Uzumaki Mito's body. Of course, as a gentleman, a certain Uchiha was searching without distractions, but when he felt a pair of big hands exuding a familiar aura, stroking his back, Uzumaki Mito's small body couldn't stop trembling. What? I need to go to the toilet. Just hold it in for a while. I'll find it soon. Uchiha Jin, who had misunderstood, immediately speeded up. Why do I feel a familiar aura from this guy? Uzumaki Mito, who was being manipulated by Uchiha Jin, began to think wildly, but it was true that Uchiha Jin had just merged with the blood of the Uzumaki clan, and the same blood naturally had an innate attraction. Just when Uchiha Jin was looking for the thread head, a talisman on the chest of Uzumaki Mito caught his attention. Looking at the talisman in the shape of a ghost face, Uchiha Jin asked curiously. This amulet of yours is quite unique. Uzumaki Mito was still dizzy when asked, and she subconsciously explained. This is my father's shielding talisman. The sealing technique is written in it. Bring it with you to hide the chakra. I relied on this to evade the family's search when I ran out. It's amazing, worthy of the Uzumaki clan. Jin Uchiha praised sincerely. It's not as good as you said. Hey, I finally found it. After searching for a long time, he finally found the thread on Uzumaki Mito's waist, and Uchiha Jin stretched out his hand to touch it. Beast, what are you going to do? Just hearing a roar, a figure covered in red light descended from the sky, slow pace. Chapter 15 Uzumaki Mito's Trust. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sun shines on the lush tree branches, creating mottled reflections on the ground. The occasional chirping of cicadas and birds comes from the distance, and the light and salty sea breeze blows by. Everything is so pleasant. In the distance, a man and a woman are cuddling together. The older man drags the girl's back with his left hand and reaches for the girl's belt with his right hand. The girl had no intention of resisting, her beautiful eyes hinted at spring, and she leaned obediently on the man's body and allowed him to manipulate him. There was an air of charm and ambiguity between the two of them. The above is the scene that Uzumaki Hanamichi witnessed. Beast, what are you going to do? Uzumaki Hanamichi's anger was like a volcano about to erupt. The boiling magma surged in his heart, making his whole body tremble slightly with anger. Startled by the thunder on the ground, the two people raised their heads and saw a red-haired man with a delicate appearance but muscles as strong as steel. The first time Uchiha Jin saw him, something popped into his head. He has a strong back and a strong waist, and a handsome face. Listening to the other party's words again, Uchiha Jinkai belatedly realized that his current actions seemed very indecent, and the little lowly Uzumaki Mito in his arms blushed even more, and a puff of steam came out of his head with a pop, and then he rolled his eyes and fainted. Uchiha Jin, who had quick eyesight and quick hands, hugged the unconscious Uzumaki Mito, but his movement was too big, destroying the girl's already cut clothes even more completely. With a few hisses, the girl's armor was directly broken. Only a few rags of the original coat were left hanging on her body. The exposed white and tender skin was as crystal clear as mutton fat jade under the sunlight. Feeling the soft and warm touch in his hand, Uchiha Jin fell silent. After a moment, he raised his head, his eyes as clear as a sage. If I say this is all a misunderstanding, you won't believe me, right? Hearing that the Uchiha clan who was caught in front of him still wanted to argue, Uzumaki Hanamichi cracked the joints of his hands with a bang. Bright red chakra bursts out of his body, like a burning flame, and his eyes emit a devouring light. Uchiha Jin, who felt the opponent's pressure from afar, screamed in his heart that something was wrong. No matter how slow he was, he could see that the opponent's strength was not inferior to Uchiha Seal Fire, and even more oppressive than Uchiha Seal Fire. For this purpose, only with your blood can we wash away the shame of Shao Mito. Uzumaki Hanamichi said, approaching Uchiha Jin step by step. In desperation, Uchiha Jin shook Uzumaki Mito, who was paralyzed on him. Seeing that the other party didn't react at all, he directly used a violent hammer to hit the girl between the two balls. Wake up quickly and explain to me, otherwise I will be killed by your tribe. Under the heavy blow, the unconscious Uzumaki Mito was awakened, and he looked at the anxious Uchiha Jin next to him in confusion. When he opened his mouth slightly and was about to say something, he caught a glimpse of the muscular man walking slowly towards him from the corner of his eye. His eyes were filled with panic for a moment, and he didn't care about the difference between men and women. He pulled down Uchiha Jin's head and whispered in his ear. Bien said quietly. Hurry and hold me hostage. Don't let Brother Huadao take me back. The girl's head was pressed against his cheek, and the girl's unique fragrance made Uchiha Jin's nose itch, almost making him sneeze. The small mouth close to his ear opened slightly, and the warm breath reached his ears, making him feel numb. Then thinking of the girl's age, Uchiha Jin immediately stopped the restlessness in his heart. Amitba, I am not a lolicon, I am not a lolicon. That it was important to save his life. Uchiha Jin strangled Uzumaki Mito's neck with one hand, and took out a sharp kunai from behind with the other hand. He changed his ferocious expression and pressed the kunai against the girl's body, feeling pitiful. Said. Gigi, you don't want this guy to get hurt, right? Seeing the Uchiha clan on the opposite side revealing their true colors, Uzumaki Hanamichi stopped, struggled, and said in a deep voice. Despicable Uchiha, how are you going to let my sister go? His fists were clenched, and the nails on his fingertips were embedded in his flesh. Uzumaki Hanamichi, the eldest son of Uzumaki Ashina, perfectly inherited the talents of the Uzumaki clan, with all four categories of the ninja phantasmal body fully completed. He is known as the strongest genius of the Uzumaki clan in the past century. At the age of 10, he already has strength that is no less than that of the elders of the Uzumaki clan. Not long ago, Uzumaki Mito, the little princess of the Uzumaki clan, disappeared. Uzumaki Hanamichi, who usually loved his sister, immediately led his men to search for her. What should I say? Uchiha Jin asked quietly, hiding his head behind Uzumaki Mito. The girl who felt a masculine aura suddenly felt dizzy, but the situation waited for no one, so she gritted her teeth and said to the man behind her. Aren't you a professional human trafficker? Do you still need my teaching? Uzumaki Mito asked strangely. When did I say I was a human trafficker? Qianqing still hasn't figured out his identity yet. Seeing that the unbeatable Uchiha dared to move his mouth on his precious sister's neck, Uzumaki Hanamichi's heart was as sharp as a knife, and he wished he could cut her into pieces and crush her bones into ashes. Just when the two sides were in a stalemate, there was a sound of fighting in the woods. As the sound got closer and closer, several figures appeared in embarrassment in front of Uchiha Jin. It turned out to be the Uchiha Fenghua people who had separated not long ago. Now these guys have a dusty face, especially Uchiha Ryoichi. His arms were bent and hung weakly by his side. The other hand kept throwing away his hand. Riken, the moment Uchiha Fenghua saw Uchiha Jin, he shouted. Uchiha Jin, take that brat away quickly, the Uzumaki clan's target is that brat. Imp. He looked at Senju Itama, who was kicked out more than 10 meters by him and was unconscious, and then at Uzumaki Mito, who was temporarily cooperating with him. Uchiha Jin suddenly felt one head and two bigger. Now he couldn't escape even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Hearing Uchiha's words to seal the fire, Uzumaki Hanamichi's eyes widened as he was controlled by others. You still say it's a misunderstanding? You despicable Uchiha. Is there no peaceful solution? Uchiha Jin asked the Uzumaki Mito in his hand. Run quickly. Uzumaki Mito, who didn't want to go home at all, urged. To put it lightly, the strength of the several people from the Whirlpool clan opposite should not be underestimated. Before the strongest Uzumaki Hanamichi took action, Uchiha Seiki and the others were already unable to parry. With such strength, how could they possibly escape? Otherwise, tell your brother that this is a misunderstanding. From now on, we can turn our hostility into friendship. Wouldn't it be a good conversation? Uchiha Jin tried to persuade the girl. No. If you don't run away with me again, I will tell my brother that you bullied me. Uzumaki Mito looked at the somewhat shaken Uchiha Jin, pouting his lips and threatening. How can your 36-degree mouth say such cold words? Only villains and women are difficult to raise. Now, the matter can no longer be solved by handing over Uzumaki Mito to the other party. The existence of Senju Atama is destined to be discovered by the Uzumaki clan. As a high-ranking member of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Hanamichi may have seen Senju Atama. As a loyal ally of the Senju clan, the Uzumaki clan will definitely not turn a blind eye to him. Senju Atama is related to his mission, and he will never let this kid leave his sight until he succeeds. Uchiha Funhua, who had distanced himself from a Uzumaki clan, ducked in front of Uchiha Jin and saw the Uzumaki Mito tied in his hand. He was stunned for a moment, but the situation was urgent and there was no time to ask. Where are the brats from the Senju clan? Uchiha Jin pouted at the unconscious Senju Atama next to him. I'll cover you, take him and evacuate first. Without thinking too much, Uchiha Funhua said. Uchiha Jin was a little confused as to why he, the weakest, was allowed to evacuate first. Is it just because he was the nephew of the clan leader? But at this moment, there was no time to think too much. Uchiha Funhua had already thrown Senju Banma onto his back. Now Uchiha Jin was carrying a small one on his back and a big one in front, just like a nanny. After giving instructions, Uchiha Funhua took a deep look at him, and then entered the battlefield again to fight with the two Uzumaki clans on the opposite side, buying time for Uchiha Silver to retreat. Looking at the captain's leaving figure, Uchiha Jin was suddenly moved. Although Uchiha Funhua usually didn't have a good attitude towards him, at this moment, he actually chose to cover his evacuation. Without any pretense, Uchiha Jin turned around and fled to the west. Kim, your child has grown so big. Uchiha Funhua saw Uchiha Jin leaving inside in his heart. It's just too weak, nothing like you. Don't even think about escaping. Uzumaki Hanamichi saw Uchiha Jin running away with his sister, and felt anxious. He kicked his feet hard, ready to chase the fleeing Uchiha Jin, but as soon as he got up, he saw a pair of cold Sharingan eyes in front of him, with 3 Magatama rotating slightly inside, emitting a coquettish light. If you want to get through, you have to get through me first. At some point, Uchiha Funhua knocked down 2 of his men and stood in front of him. Court death. The explosive power of Uzumaki Hanadao was astonishing, and the punch he threw was like a powerful force. The wind pressure hit Uchiha Funhua's face painfully. You've made eye contact with me. Magic shackle technique, one of the signature illusion techniques of the Uchiha clan, and later a ninjutsu commonly used by Uchiha Itachi, using the Sharingan to pull the opponent into the illusion space. The Sharingan holder will use the large iron nails formed by the illusion to insert into the opponent's body to make it immobile. The careless Uzumaki Hanamichi was struck, and when the scene changed, he had entered a sea of blood, and several huge steel nails pinned him to the spot. Unable to move, in the real world, Uchiha Funhua, who was somewhat out of power, covered his eyes. The sour feeling was too strong, and then closed his Sharingan. Sure enough, it's still a bit difficult to deal with an opponent of this level. Looking at Uzumaki Hanamichi who was caught in the illusion, Uchiha Funhua turned around to help Uchiha Ryoichi and others. The 3 of them were besieging the long-haired Uzumaki clan, and the other weaker Uzumaki clan had already been knocked to the ground. At this moment, the voice of Uzumaki Hanamichi came to Uchiha Funhua's ears. I almost got into your trap. He turned his head and looked at the man who had regained consciousness in disbelief. He had been preparing for the illusion for a long time, but just one look took away most of his pupil power. Fortunately, the sealing technique my father prepared for me can allow me to withstand a mental attack. Uzumaki Hanamichi said, revealing symbols composed of tadpole-like words on his chest. At this time, these symbols were gradually fading. Thinking of the sealing technique his father had planted for him before leaving, Uzumaki Hanamichi felt happy for a while. TSK, that's really troublesome. Uchiha Sealed Fire remembered the sealing technique that the Uzumaki clan was best at, and had no choice but to open the Sharingan again, and the second round between the two began. On the other side, Uchiha Jin, who was running all the way, suddenly stopped. Under the confused eyes of Uzumaki Mito, he put down the two people on him and checked his ninja bag. "What do you want to do?" That the girl pulled Uchiha Jin's clothes and asked. "You are free now. If I can't come back, help me send this brat back to the Thousand Hands clan." Uchiha Jin lowered his head and said to Uzumaki Mito. "You want to go back and die? My brother is very strong, you will never be able to take a punch from him." The girl saw that the other party wanted to die and quickly stopped him. "I also want to live, I still want to live to see Konoha," Uchiha Jin said with a sigh, thinking of the arrogant Uchiha Ryoichi, the cold-faced and warm-hearted Uchiha Tsuru, the honest Uchiha Dairo, and the Uchiha Seiki who seemed to have special care for him. Although he had only traveled through time for a few days, his interactions with them over the past few days had made him develop a strong bond with several people. As expected, "I still can't be cruel." Then his eyes became firm, he pulled Uzumaki Mito's hand away, and stood up to leave. "Wait." Uzumaki Mito hesitated to speak. "What, are you afraid that I will defeat your brother?" That seeing her like that, Uchiha Jin couldn't help but tease. "No, you can't be my brother's opponent. No one in the clan can defeat my brother head-on except my father," Uzumaki Mito said with lingering fear. After that, the girl who hesitated took out a black bead from her bag and handed it to Uchiha Jin. Looking curiously at what the girl gave him, Uchiha Jin picked it up and examined it carefully, and found that it was a pearl, with ink patterns slowly flowing on the dark surface. "Be careful. My father gave me this for self-defense. There is a sealing technique written in the bead. It can temporarily trap my brother after being activated with chakra. You can take the opportunity to escape when the time comes. Aren't you afraid that I will use this thing to trap your brother and then kill him?" Uchiha Jin, who was holding the bead, looked at the girl in front of him and asked tentatively. "You won't?" The girl in question said seriously, her big eyes full of trust in him. "Why are you so sure that I won't?" He was confused by the girl's strange sense of trust. "I was born with the gift of being able to sense the good and evil in those around me." The girl explained, "From the first time I saw you, I never sensed any malice from you. You are a good person," the girl concluded. Uchiha Jin, who was handed the good guy card in a daze, curled his lips, put away the beads, and patted the girl's head. "It's such a convenient ability, thank you. The abilities of the descendant of Otsutsuki are really strange. No wonder the girl trusts him so much. It turns out that he has the ability to perceive good and evil in the mode of the future Prince Yijio Lama." After thanking him, Uchiha Jin ran towards the place where he had just fought. "System, is there any way I can get through this difficult situation?" Feeling the disparity in strength, Uchiha Jin couldn't help but try to ask the system. After a moment of silence. "The system has not been fully activated and cannot provide help to the host." "Feiwu system, what use do you have?" The feeling of disgust in Uchiha Jin's heart became stronger and stronger. He originally thought that after activating the system, he would soar into the sky, and then he could live a good life of stepping on Kagaya and punching aliens. I never thought that this half-finished medieval system not only had an erasure mechanism, but the rewards were as good as squeezing toothpaste. The novice gift package gave him a basis for defense, and he had to collect fragments to synthesize a skill. Not to mention taking off, the encounters in the past few days alone were enough to make him miserable. If I had known better, I would not have activated this medieval system. With my ability to know a little about the plot, I would have been able to survive the founding of Konoha, and then take advantage of the honeymoon period between the Uchiha clan and Konoha to sneak out and hide in a remote small country to enjoy the rest of my life. Isn't it beautiful? What a cheating system. Uchiha Jin complained angrily. Ding! The host's strong dissatisfaction has been detected, and the system has issued a challenge mission: rescue Uchiha. Rescue the Uchiha fire sealing team in a desperate situation. Mission completion points *50, random orbs *4. Death of any mission target means failure. Uchiha Jin couldn't help but make a guess when he saw the mission suddenly popping up in his mind. Does this system require you to curse before it can get feedback? Then can I do it? It is detected that the host has bad thoughts, and the difficulty of the task increases. You need to defeat Uzumaki Hanamichi to complete the subsequent tasks. I heard. I thank you. Chapter 18, Sealing the Whirlpool Flower Path. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Touching the beads in his arms, Uchiha Jin remembered Uzumaki Mito's words. The sealing technique of this bead can only be released at close range, and only when the opponent puts down their guard. Mito Uzumaki, who has a cute bun, puffed out his bun face and guided Uchiha Jin. Your brother is such a powerful taijutsu ninja. If I were to get so close to him, I would probably be shot to death in the middle of the road before I even got close to him. Uchiha Jin, who took the beads, said dejectedly. Stupid, you don't know how to use your brain. Who told you to have a tough fight with him? Uzumaki Mito said with hatred for iron. Then I'll just have to play it by ear. Uchiha Jin, who had not yet made up his mind, first placed the beads close to his body and told Mito Uzumaki, who had a worried look on his face, memories come to an abrupt end. Looking at Uzumaki Hanamichi opposite him, who was exuding red chakra aura, Uchiha Jin could only sigh in his heart and had no choice but to get hard. He took the first step and walked towards Uzumaki Hanamichi. Looking at Uchiha Jin, who boldly approached him, Uzumaki Hanamichi said warily. What are you going to do? The giant fireball just now left a big shadow on him, and he was afraid that the other party would hit him again. Hearing the other party scolding, Uchiha Jin inserted his katana into the ground, and then raised his hands to show that he had no ill intentions. This scene actually made Uzumaki Hanamichi unable to deal with him. He thought that the other party would fight him to the death, but now it seems that the situation is quite different from what he thought. Is the young leader of the Uzumaki clan still afraid of an ordinary Uchiha like me? That the old god Uchiha Jin raised his hand and said, his words full of provocation. Am I afraid of you? Ridiculous. Uzumaki Hanamichi, who was easily stimulated by the provoking method, immediately stepped in front of Uchiha Jin and looked at him condescendingly. Uchiha Jin is a little over 1.8 meters tall, which is considered higher among the Uchiha clan, but in front of Hanamichi Uzumaki, who is just over 2 meters tall, he still looks a bit small. Uchiha Jinkai took a closer look at the young patriarch of the Uzumaki clan for the first time at close range. The handsome face of a boy of 18 or 19 was paired with a Schwarzenegger's body. The strong contrast made people feel the feeling of darkness in front of my eyes. Not paying attention to Uchiha Jin's strange expression, Uzumaki Hanamichi spoke first. Despicable Uchiha, where did you hide my sister? Now tell me, as long as my sister is intact, I will consider sparing your life. The powerful Uzumaki Hanamichi is not too wary of the weak. After all, in his opinion, even Uchiha Jin with the double Magatama activated is just a toy that he can handle at will. The giant fireball just now should have been released by the other party by squeezing their own life force. This method is somewhat similar to that of their clan. With this question in mind, Uzumaki Hanamichi did not immediately break Uchiha Jin's limbs, but chose to stand and chat with him. As long as the young patriarch is willing to let us go, I guarantee that your sister will not lose a hair. Uchiha Jin behaved very submissively. Just letting you go is my limit. Don't even think about bargaining with me. Uchiha Jin may be a descendant of their Uzumaki clan. Even if he is tainted by the Uchiha bloodline, he must be brought back to the clan to wait for his father's fate. A trace of struggle flashed across Uchiha Jin's face, as if he was struggling with something, and he finally thought about it and said. Well, please promise, young patriarch, that you won't hurt me, and I will take you over to meet your sister immediately. You know the truth. After hearing the answer he wanted, Uzumaki Hanamichi held his head high, as if to show his pride to the world. Then we've settled. Saying this, Uchiha Jin stretched out a fisted hand. What's the meaning? Uzumaki Hanamichi said with a frown. Fist bump, I learned this from the country over there in the north. It means that two people have reached an agreement. Uchiha Jin raised his fist and said seriously. What a weird custom. Although it was strange, the conceited Uzumaki Hanamichi stretched out his sandbag-sized fist and touched it gently. The moment the two fists touched each other, Uchiha Jin's serious face showed an expression of a successful plot. Seeing this expression on the other side, Uzumaki Hanamichi couldn't help but feel nervous. Just when he was about to use his super perception, all the chakra in his body stagnated, like stagnant water. At the same time, he felt a strong suction coming from his outstretched fist, locking him tightly like a black hole. Taking a closer look, Uchiha Jin's fist-bumping hand was already open, and a familiar bead was lying quietly on it. At this time, several black shadows protruded from the bead, wrapping his hand tightly. No matter how I couldn't break free, no matter how hard I tried. The 4 symbols sealing bead. How come this thing is in your hands? Uzumaki Hanamichi shouted in surprise that his father only made 1 bead and gave it to Uzumaki Mito for self-defense. There is a 4-image sealing technique written in the bead. Using this bead will seal the enemy into the inside of the bead. Only Uzumaki Ashina can release the seal. Without answering the other party's question, Uchiha Jin tried his best to activate chakra, controlling the black shadow extending from the beads to wrap the immobile Uzumaki Hanamichi layer by layer, until finally, his whole body was plunged into a black shadow, and then the beads in his hand produced a strong suction force, twisting and rotating the 2-meter-high whirlpool flower arrangement and slowly sucking it in. As the last shadow was sucked into the bead, Uchiha Jin finally lost his strength and sat down on the grass. He panted heavily, looked at the trembling black and red bead in his hand in surprise, and sighed. The sealing technique is indeed the most mysterious skill in the original work. It's too scary. If the Uzumaki clan had not been destroyed, he would have been able to kill gods and Buddhas with just the sealing technique, but it was a pity that he was killed by the AB plot. Ding! Uzumaki Hanamichi has been defeated. Mission: save the Uchiha fire sealing team in desperate situation. Completion rate 80%. That the system's prompt sound was so pleasant for the first time. After simply packing up his equipment, Uchiha Jin, who relied on the vortex physique, had recovered most of his chakra. Now only Uchiha Ryoichi and others' battle has not yet ended. But before that he has to meet someone first. In a cave a few miles away, Senju Atama, who was stuffed with smelly socks, woke up. Slowly, instead of seeing the hateful Uchiha clan, she saw a girl with a ball-shaped head in front of her, who was standing in a daze with a ray of hope in her eyes. She didn't care about the sour smell in her mouth, and made a humming sound. Ah. The strange sound instantly disrupted the girl's thinking, and she turned her head to look at the child who was tied up by the Uchiha traffickers. Ah bah. Seeing that the girl noticed him, Senju Atama twisted his body more vigorously, and hummed louder. Seeing Senju Atama's appearance, Uzumaki Mito thought about it and asked. Do you have something to say to me? Senju Atama nodded frantically after receiving the response, and the girl who loved cleanliness was a little disgusted, and got up and fumbled for a long time to find a branch. After picking it up, she picked at the socks in the kid's mouth, but it was too smelly, and Uzumaki Mito had to pinch her delicate little nose with one hand. But because he hid too far away, the socks were not picked out, but were pushed deeper by the girl's brute force. Senju Atama, who felt that the socks were not out but were almost pushed to his throat, shook his head repeatedly in pain. Uzumaki Mito turned his head to the side for fear of dirtying his eyes, and ignored the kid whose eyes rolled back after being poked, and continued to poke the branches hard. Hey, what kind of weird play is this? If you poke it again, this kid will really die. Chapter 19 Farewell is for a better encounter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Jin, who came over, looked at the two brats' operations with a strange look on his face. He didn't issue a warning until Senju Atama was almost over. If Uzumaki Mito played this Senju brat to death, he would have to follow suit. Ah! Are you back? How is my brother? Seeing that the person coming was Uchiha Jin, the girl threw away the branch in her hand, circled around him twice, and then reached out to move her hands up and down his body. You're not hurt. Didn't you go? Uchiha Jin stretched out a finger and pointed it at the chattering girl's forehead. Ouch, what are you doing? Holding his red and swollen forehead, Uzumaki Mito said with tears in the corners of his eyes, men and women are not intimate, except for Uchiha's black stockings. ignoring the girl's words, he took out the still trembling black-red bead with his backhand and handed it over. The girl with tears in her eyes was stunned when she saw it, and she couldn't speak fluently. You actually succeeded, that even without the use of perception, Mito Uzumaki could tell from the aura coming from the beads that his elder brother Uzumaki Hanamichi was sealed inside. What are you going to do with him? That the pouty girl asked anxiously. She really didn't expect that her brother would actually lose to the unreliable Uchiha in front of her, although her talent can sense that the other party is definitely not an evil person. Sometimes the conflicts between the camps override human nature. Squinting his eyes, Uchiha Jin rubbed the beads in his hands a few times, and without thinking, he threw the beads in the girl's hand towards her amid the worried expression. Forehead. Uzumaki Mito hurriedly took the beads and looked at Uchiha Jin with disbelief. You just give it back to me so casually. My brother is an important figure in the Uzumaki clan. If you hand him over to your clan, you will definitely receive a generous reward. People are as big as little devils. Uchiha Jin looked at the girl in front of him. Although he would definitely be arranged by the clan leader if he followed her advice and went back, doing so would lead to a sworn relationship with the Uzumaki clan. As the saying goes, many friends, many roads, many enemies, many walls. If I can't survive in Uchiha in the future, I can still ask you to take me in. Uchiha Jin rolled his eyes and said indifferently. After hearing this, Uzumaki Mito glanced at him with a strange expression. He first put the beads back into his bag, then walked to Uchiha Jin and took his left hand. Uchiha Jin was a little surprised when the girl suddenly grabbed one of his hands. He found that the other person's hands holding him were glowing with blue light. Just when he was about to pull out, the girl stopped him. Don't move. I will use the secret technique of the Uzumaki clan to give you a chakra mark. If you are really homeless, you can use this mark to seek help from the Uzumaki clan. Just as the girl was seriously performing the spell, she was caught off guard by a burst of powerful red light. What's going on? How could it fail? The girl who was interrupted by the strange power came over again, grabbed Uchiha Jin's left hand and checked it repeatedly, but even using her perception, she couldn't find any clues. Will it actually fail? Uchiha Jin took out his left hand, made a fist, and tested it repeatedly. He didn't feel any discomfort. Maybe it was because the girl was not proficient in using secret techniques. Isn't it really possible to use another hand? Or maybe a foot? Uchiha Jin stretched out a foot in a gesture, and Uzumaki Mito was so frightened that he grabbed his right hand and scored twice. This time it went smoothly. As a cool feeling passed into his left hand, Uchiha Jin saw a swirl-shaped mark appear on the back of his right hand. It was the emblem of the Uzumaki clan, and it disappeared within a few seconds. What's your next plan? Uchiha Jin, who bore the mark of the Uzumaki clan, lowered his head, stared at the girl's two wagging balls and asked. Only my father can break my brother's seal. I have escaped and played for so long, and it's time to go back. Knowing the importance of his brother to the family, even if he wanted to explore the world again, he had no choice but to stay outside. Then let's just say goodbye, Uchiha Jin said with a raised eyebrow. When people are in the arena, they can't help themselves. Mito Uzumaki looked serious and sighed seriously. Well, just be happy. Uchiha Jin, whose head was full of black lines, waved goodbye to Uzumaki Mito, who was once again carrying a huge burden. When parting, the girl who had walked out a few steps stopped, tilted her head at a 45-degree angle, and said with wandering eyes. Mr. Human Trafficker, we will meet again. Must. Uchiha Jin, who was well aware of the girl's future destiny, nodded without hesitation. Oh. After hearing this, the girl turned her head, turned her back and raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and walked towards home with joyful steps. Watching Uzumaki Mito's retreating back, Uchiha Jin turned around and returned to the cave, kicking the unlucky little brother Senju Atama who was lying unconscious on the ground with his eyes closed. Stop pretending to be dead, little brother, it's time for us to leave. After being exposed, Senju Atama opened his eyes helplessly, his eyes full of prayer. As long as you promise not to talk nonsense to me on the way, I will take out the socks. Uchiha Jin said, understanding what the other party meant. the kid nodded repeatedly, almost bursting into tears. Taking out the smelly socks from his mouth, Senju Banma breathed in the fresh air greedily, and then seemed to remember something terrible, and began to roll up and retching crazily. When the brat vomited until his bile was almost gone, Uchiha Jin picked him up and started to join Uchiha Ryoichi and others on the battlefield. He walked as fast as he could along the way, and he looked completely different from when he was out of breath from exhaustion while carrying this kid on his back. The bloodline of the Uzumaki clan is really practical. They are worthy of being the clan that inherited the immortal body in the original work. Feeling the explosive power and majestic chakra contained in his body, Uchiha Jin sighed in his heart. Ding! The host successfully rescued the Uchiha Fire Sealing team in a desperate situation and received 50 points and 4 random magic balls. The sudden notification sound made Uchiha Jin stop in his tracks before he arrived. Why was the mission completed before he arrived? He immediately rushed towards the battlefield without stopping, as if the wind was blowing at his feet. When Uchiha Jin arrived with Senju Atama on his back, only the Uchiha team was left at the scene. Uchiha Funghwa was on guard, Uchiha Crane was bandaging Uchiha Ryoichi's injured arm, and Uchiha Dairo had no serious skin injuries and was meditating to recover chakra. Uchiha Jin. Are you still alive? Uchiha Ryoichi, who learned from Uchiha Seal's mouth that Uchiha Jin chose to drag Uzumaki Hanamichi, saw that the other party appeared in front of them intact, and couldn't help but open his Sharingan and scan. It was just a fluke. Uchiha Jin replied, now he is also curious about how the battle ended. There were no corpses of the Uzumaki clan at the scene. Where are the people from the Uzumaki clan? The long-haired Uzumaki clan seemed to sense something during the battle, and suddenly burst out with strange abilities. Uchiha Dairo opened his eyes and explained. What's weird? He was a little curious. He suddenly burst into flames, and a lot of chakra emerged from his body to form chains. It was very difficult to deal with, but the other party didn't seem to be interested in fighting. He took the opportunity to pick up the injured Uzumaki clan and ran away. Uchiha Funghwa came over and continued to explain. How did you escape? Uchiha Funghwa, who had fought head-on with Uzumaki Hanamichi, knew very well that with Uchiha Jin's strength, he would be blasted to pieces by the opponent in a single confrontation, but looking at Uchiha Jin, who was not only intact but also in excellent condition, he felt more confused than happy. That Uzumaki clan didn't want to kill me. His main goal was his sister. It happened that the girl I captured was his sister. I told him that I hid his sister in a place when I first escaped. A hidden place, and an illusion spell has been placed on him. If he does not tell the corresponding code, he will die on the spot. Uchiha Jin calmly told the excuse he had thought up on the way. Then he let you go. That's right. The Uzumaki clan is really as single-minded as the legend says. Uchiha Funghwa remembered the reputation of the Uzumaki clan and couldn't help but complain. Okay, let's start now and rush forward with all our strength, trying to reach the tribe's territory tomorrow. Uchiha Funghwa waved his hand and ordered. Chapter 20 Skill Refresh, Beauty Falls from the Sky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Taking advantage of the moonlight, the Uchiha team is still speeding up to the west. The daytime battle has wasted too much of their time. Originally, they wanted to take a long detour, but Uchiha Funghwa immediately chose a straight route. The remaining few people had no objection. The direct shortcut can save more than half of the time. Along the way, they did not encounter any obstruction from the Senju clan. From this, it seems that the Senju clan is already overwhelmed and unable to send people to chase them. Okay, let's camp here tonight. Seeing the increasingly familiar road in front of him, Uchiha Funghwa ordered the team to rest. Hohu. Uchiha Liani and the other two had just gone through a hard battle during the day, and coupled with the high-intensity journey, they were already exhausted. The 3 people who collapsed on the ground suddenly found that Uchiha-in, who was originally the weakest, was still in high spirits. Not only did he not breathe heavily, but he was also not covered with dust. Noticing the strange looks of the 3 people, Uchiha-in secretly thought that it was not good, and immediately left Senju Banjian behind him. he lay on the ground, forced himself to sweat, and stuck out his tongue to show exhaustion, which made the three people feel relieved and withdraw their attention. "I'll go on guard first, you guys take a rest quickly." Uchiha Fenghua, who was good at hiding, was in good condition. He took the initiative to take the task of guarding and let the others rest. After a short rest, the few people got up one after another and started to set up the tent. Seeing the few people walking away, Uchiha also got up and took out the tent, but thinking that he still had a weird skill, he immediately gave up camping on the spot and chose a more remote corner. After setting up the tent, this time he did not choose to tie up Senju Banjian outside, but chose to throw him into the tent. Then went around to the back and circled an empty area like last time. "I hope I can brush out some useful skills tonight." Thinking of last night's Tsukuyami, Uchiha felt a pain in his balls and anus again. Although Tsukuyami was fragrant, no one could stand being caught and tortured for 2 consecutive days. Praying that the Tsukuyami would not appear, Uchiha sat cross-legged on the ground, waiting for the skill to refresh, but before that, he had not opened the daytime mission reward yet, so he decided to go and see what the reward was like, and then sank into his mind. Standing on the chessboard, Uchiha saw that the score count on the game console that was empty during the day had turned to 50. He suppressed the restlessness of the lottery in his heart and turned his eyes to the 5 floating magic balls. The mission only gave 4, so why was there one more? The mission reward for defeating Uzumaki Mito. The system prompted in time. Gone, then why didn't you open this magic ball and use my points when you were in emergency? Uchiha, who recalled the reason for the extra magic ball, asked angrily. Only the host can open the mission magic ball, and the system has no right to handle it on the AFK. I understand, the points are equivalent to the money he earns, and the system will of course spend it on itself. The magic ball is a reward given by the system, and it is essentially the system's inventory, so it will naturally not be used easily. What a profiteer! Ignoring this idiot system, Uchiha began to examine the magic balls in front of him, 2 blue and 3 white, except for the girl's mission, which gave a fixed blue magic ball. The mission to save Uchiha Fenghua and others gave only 1 blue magic ball, no purple, no gold. "I'm not a chief," he casually clicked on the first white magic ball, and a faint white light flashed. Gold brick *1. Universal currency, can be used for real consumption. Exploded gold coins, no loss. The second one. Gold brick *1, universal currency, can be used for real consumption. Still gold coins, no loss. The third one. Gold brick *1, universal currency, can be used for real consumption. What does 3 consecutive gold bars mean? So the most useless thing about magic balls is to explode gold coins. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Uchiha clicked on the first blue magic ball. Gold brick *5, universal currency, can be used for real consumption. Uchiha wanted to jump up and slap the system twice. At this moment, he was like a non-African who had drawn 10 cards in a row and got all our cards, and was furious. After venting, Uchiha stretched out his trembling fingers and closed his eyes to touch the last magic ball, Flying Thunder God Kunai *1, the weapon used by Minato Namikaze, which contains a trace of time and space power. Note, when worn, it can accelerate the comprehension of time and space ninjutsu. Looking at the trident-shaped weapon in his hand, a yellow figure appeared in Uchiha mind. This kunai is a special weapon for the 4th generation. It is marked with a special Flying Thunder God technique. With the time and space ninjutsu Flying Thunder God, it can achieve long-distance teleportation. Can it accelerate the comprehension of time and space skills when worn? Try to wave the kunai in your hand a few times and find that it is quite handy. Even if you can't fly Thunder God, this weapon can also be used daily. Putting away the hard-earned kunai and the 8 gold bricks scattered on the ground, Uchiha walked to the game console. Looking at the pitiful 50 blood-hardened points, he gritted his teeth and pulled the joystick of the slot machine. He took a chance and turned the bicycle into a motorcycle. With a classic slot machine BGM, 3 words on the panel began to flash rapidly. Uchiha held his breath and stared at the changes in the pattern. The first word, body. A few seconds later, the second word also stopped at body /. Seeing this scene, Uchiha couldn't help but breathe quickly. Could it be that he was going to turn from a chief to a European? Body, body, body. He couldn't help but shout out, as Uchiha Jin finished speaking, the last word stopped at ninja. Congratulations to the host for getting the combination of physical plus ninja, the physical effect is doubled/physical plus 1. I choose physical plus 1, fearing that the system would settle too quickly, Uchiha Jin chose it first, strike while the iron is hot. Uchiha Jin continued to shake the slot machine, and the next 4 times did not produce a critical hit, all of which were small combinations. Final settlement, physique plus 2, ninja plus 2, spirit plus 1. Host, Uchiha Jin, ninja, 9. Physique, 10. Intelligence, 9. Spirit, 7. Charm, 1. Pupil, 10. Skills, ordinary physical skills, great fireball technique, Uchiha entry-level swordsmanship. Intermediate shuriken technique, comprehensive evaluation, a well-balanced Uchiha Chunin who deserves a beating. After adding points, he felt that his strength had improved a lot. In a horizontal comparison, he should be on par with Uchiha Ryoichi and the other two. After counting the spoils, Uchiha Jin exited the system space, he opened his eyes, and it was still pitch black. Only the flying thunder god kunai in his hand gave him a sense of reality. He frowned. Why haven't my skills been refreshed today? Uchiha Jin whispered to himself. Before he finished speaking, the aura around him suddenly stagnated, and a light curtain with ripples quietly emerged above his head. Then a figure fell from the sky and kicked Uchiha Jin, who was still sitting cross-legged. Although he had some perception of the Uzumaki clan and foresaw the danger in advance, he still couldn't avoid this swift blow. The opponent's powerful kick hit him hard on the back, and the brutal force penetrated his body. Uchiha Jin immediately fell to the ground and vomited blood. As the smoke dissipated, a tall figure appeared in front of him. The person's long light yellow hair was tied into a big ponytail, with short light yellow eyebrows, bright brown pupils, and bright red nail polish on his clenched hands. The moonlight shone down, shining a faint light on the white skin. He wore a tea-green long gown with black edges, a loose sleeveless top similar to a kimono, a black cloth belt around his waist, and dark blue cropped pants, but these are not the main points. He was spitting blood and all his attention was focused on the other party's 2 magnificent mountains. At this time, Uchiha-in felt a hot current in his nose. Before he could come to his senses, the person came with another simple straight punch at him. Uchiha-in, who had no time to react, immediately opened his Sharingan and simulated the opponent's punching path, trying to turn around and dodge this devastating blow, but before he turned around, he found that his body could not move, and at the same time, he felt a tingling pain in his right arm. At some point, the other party grabbed his right arm with his other hand first, and the whole right arm was easily broken by the other party like a dead branch. Ignoring the pain, Uchiha Jin tried to break free and was horrified to find that a delicate white fist had rushed over with the force of thunder. The nail polish is pretty. This was Uchiha Jin's last thought before he fell into a coma. Please collect it. Chapter 21 Weird Dreams and Weird Powers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Jin had a dream, and the dream was like turning over a dynamic comic book. In the first picture, a boy held the hand of a crying girl and said something. In the second picture, the boy knelt in the sea of fire in despair, with the bodies of the old, weak, women and children in front of him. In the third picture, the boy was kneeling on the ground, surrounded by hideous black shadows, and the background was a red moon rising slowly. In the fourth picture, the flames surrounding the boy were printed into a strange black by the red moon. In the fifth picture, the position of the boy's eyes became 2 blood holes, and blood kept flowing, but his mouth was filled with a bright smile. Just as he was about to turn the page, Uchiha Jin felt a sharp pain in his head, and the dream stopped abruptly. He raised his eyelids with difficulty, and the full moon was still hanging in the sky. The surrounding scene did not change. The vague mumbling of Senju Atama in his dream came from the tent in front of him, making everything seem more real. When he wanted to get up, he found that his whole body seemed to be falling apart, especially his back and head, as if he had been hit head-on by a train. This feeling was just like when he just crossed over. Uchiha-in raised his arm to check if he had any signs of injury, but found that his right arm, which was easily broken by the woman before he fainted, was intact. It seems that this wave of skills has survived. His injuries have recovered, which means that the skills refreshed tonight have been released. The backyard refreshes the random skill, Super Strength, every day, and gains Super Strength *1. The system prompt sounded, regardless of the psychological pain. Uchiha-in turned over and stood up, examining his thin and white hands. He tried to clench his fists, and then felt a special warm current coming from his heart, gathering on his hands, and a violent force seemed to break out of his body. Staring at a huge rock on the side, Uchiha-in raised a fist and smashed it hard. The moment the two came into contact, the hard rock was hit by his seemingly weak fist with a powerful airflow, creating a huge deep pit. The cracks like spider webs extended from the fist to the entire rock. Looking at his achievements in disbelief, Uchiha-in couldn't help but feel dry in his throat. Is this the legendary supernatural power? Supernatural power, the ability of the Senju clan, precise control of chakra, focusing chakra on any part of the body, and then bursting out a powerful airflow, which can easily break the wall. The system explained it to him considerately. He got up and exercised for a while, and the soreness all over his body just now slowly disappeared. The damage caused by the backyard refresh skill will be restored after the skill is cast. Although the head will still remember being hit, the body will not be hurt. After the excitement, Uchiha-in sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to recall the heroic figure of the woman who fell from the sky just now. Although it was just a glimpse, as a fan of the original work, he recognized who the technician was at the first time. Tsunade. Aren't you here to avenge Uzumaki Mito? Thinking back to Tsunade, who was still a girl, Uchiha-jin couldn't help but complain. He had just said goodbye to Uzumaki Mito in the daytime, and had a close exchange with her granddaughter at night. They really don't hold grudges overnight. Uchiha-jin, who had gained a lot, raised his eyebrows and thought. But at least a useful skill has been developed. Uchiha-jin, who has comprehended the strange power, has become even stronger. Now he should be able to compete with Uchiha Funghua, who is unaware of it. The great increase in strength certainly made Uchiha-jin happy, but when he thought of Senju Atama's task, he had a headache again. It was obviously an initial task. Why was it so cumbersome? Unable to figure it out, he simply gave up thinking and returned to the tent to look at Senju Atama, who was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, he was furious and picked up the sleeping kid and threw him out. He then lay down on the mat he had just warmed up, feeling the warmth under him. Uchiha-jin fell asleep contentedly, leaving Senju Atama, who was woken up by the fall, alone outside the tent to blow the cold wind. Achoo. Achoo. Listening to the sneezes outside the tent, Uchiha-jin, who was sleeping very soundly, stretched his waist and walked out to see Senju Atama curled up beside the tent. Ignoring the other party's resentful eyes, Uchiha-jin quickly folded up the tent. According to the route, he would be able to return to the tribe today without any accidents. Looking at the kid who had been taken care of by him along the way, Uchiha-jin couldn't help but worry about himself. How about taking this kid to Senju? A bold idea came out of his mind, and then it was extinguished by him the next moment. Now the two families are fighting fiercely, and the Uchiha and Senju clansmen are killing like crazy. If he goes over there, he will most likely be strangled by spies on the spot. Even if he succeeds in surrendering to the enemy, he will definitely be considered a traitor by the Uchiha side, and he might be disappeared by Uchiha Funghua when he sleeps at night. None of them are appropriate. Uchiha-jin secretly shook his head and could only take one step at a time. He immediately packed his bags and took Senju Atama to meet up with the others. Several people in the distance had already sat together waiting to set off. Seeing Uchiha-jin, who arrived the latest, several people tacitly did not say a word, but looked at him with vigilance. This confused Uchiha-jin. Could it be that someone had awakened the eavesdropping system and heard clearly his little thought of running away just now? Uchiha-jin began to make random assumptions. We won't spar with you. Seeing that Uchiha-jin didn't speak but looked strange, Uchiha Ryoichi spoke first. That's right. Uchiha-he and Uchiha Dalong nodded in tacit understanding. So that's what happened. Uchiha-jin was relieved. It seemed that he had made these people a little nervous in order to brush the heart steel treasure box a few days ago. He said straightforwardly. Please rest assured, I will go home soon. I will not delay everyone's time and energy. Let's make an appointment for sparring after I go back. No, uncle, we won't make an appointment. This time, the three of them shook their heads in tacit understanding. Okay, we will set off after we pack up. Uchiha Funghua, who appeared behind him at some point, said. Yes, thought the rest of the journey was relatively smooth. As the group kept on walking, they were getting closer and closer to the Uchiha clan. With the smoke rising from the front, the Uchiha team members finally put down their worries, except for Uchiha Jin. Who are you? That just as they were about to approach the Uchiha clan, two figures flashed out from the darkness. Their long black hair and scarlet eyes clearly revealed their identities. We are the Uchiha team that is out on a mission. I am the captain, Uchiha Funghua. I am back to report after completing the mission. As the captain, Uchiha Funghua said, revealing his Sharingan. It turns out to be Lord Shinin Funghua. You are really fast. You are the first group to come back. You should go back and rest. Hearing Uchiha Funghua introduce himself, one of the Uchiha said respectfully, the patrolling Uchiha were only the most basic combatants, and their strength was not enough to perform the missions outside. They naturally respected the famous Uchiha Funghua. He glanced at Uchiha Liangyi and others behind him, and finally stopped his eyes on Uchiha In, who was carrying a child. Who is that guy? Why is he carrying a kid? The patrolling Uchiha couldn't help asking, and the next moment, his companion quickly covered his mouth with his hand, and signaled him with horror not to say more. As soon as the Uchiha team that was released left, the Uchiha who was covered broke free from his companion's hand and asked. Why did you stop me from questioning that guy? You should thank me, I saved your life. Shaking the saliva in his palm, another Uchiha said with a look of relief. The Uchiha who had just been covered had a question mark on his face. That guy, but Uchiha In.